to mere property, blacks were bought and sold, publicly humiliated, brutalized, beaten, murdered. This desperate, twisted rationalization then had to be legitimized, legalized, and marketed to all of America, including the slaves themselves. Thus began arguably the most successful, effective propaganda campaign in human history.
Praise the Lord, Mr. Lord.
America sold blacks on their inferiority, and they bought it. Whites were told that they were superior, and they accepted their supremacy. The campaign has been so successful that black people themselves have become a party to its perpetuation, often taking the lead in promoting it. But America's hypocrisy would not go unchallenged.
Am I to argue that it is wrong to make men brutes? To rob them of their liberty, to work them without wages, to beat them with sticks, to hunt them with dogs, to sell them at auction, to sunder their families, to knock out their teeth, to burn their flesh, to starve them into obedience and submission to their masters? Your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. There is not a nation on the earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of the United States. For revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival.
Relentless abuse and humiliation decimated black self-esteem and exacerbated feelings of inferiority. This aggressive marketing campaign selling black inferiority came from all directions. Books, cartoons, movies, medicine, from the pulpit and from the bench. Supreme Court Chief Justice Roger Taney left no doubt about the status of black people in the Dred Scott decision.
Beings of an inferior order, and altogether unfit to associate with the white race, either in social or political relations, and so far inferior that they had no rights which the white man was bound to respect.
Noted American physician Benjamin Rush described black skin as a disease and likened it to leprosy. Medicine studied the size of black brains. Niggerology was a popular science. These vile and destructive images would forever scar the American psyche, both black and white. The damage to the black psyche was so thorough that blacks assumed their own denigration. And the bombardment continues. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode?
I spent roughly 45 years in the business of persuading people to buy things, sometimes buy things that they didn't need, buy things that weren't necessarily good for them. 35 of those 45 years I spent focusing on the African American consumer. We were very fortunate to be successful in, for the first time in the history of advertising, really portraying African Americans in a positive, realistic way as we went about the business of selling them goods and services. In the whole process of carrying out the function of commerce, selling people stuff, and because we were focusing on the African American, I got a chance to really think about and study our history and what makes us work and what makes us tick. It started with, why do we buy the way that we buy? That's how the whole thing got started. And for instance, we learned that, somebody asked the question, why do we spend all our money on stuff? Why do we buy stuff? And why don't we save money? Started to look into that and started to be able to connect the dots between that behavior and our history in this country, the way that we were brought to this country. Totally stripped of everything, of our history, our religion, our customs, our families, our names, our language, stripped, and brought to a place where the primary driver was materialism. So stripped of everything, stripped of all status, human status, it is altogether reasonable to see that in order to try to compensate for that, we started to try to buy our status. And in a materialistic society, what do we do to buy our status? We buy things to buy our way into somebodiness. That is what we basically are doing. Because we aren't buying things that we hide in storage lockers and put in safety deposit boxes. We are buying things that people can see, so we can say, see, I am somebody. Look at me. Can't you see? Can't you, you see the sparkle? See the label? See the car that I can drive around and park in front of the joint or park in front of the church that says, I am somebody. So that explains that. So we started to look at all other aspects. Why are we so concerned? Why do we index so high in any product that has to do with cleanliness? We're trying to buy our way into the status of being somebody because we were told that we were dirty and filthy. So that's why we scrub and wash to try to wash away the stigma. So that led to all kinds of other